live on Facebook. And I'll turn it over to you, Melody.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Melody from Melody in the Making on Instagram. I'm so glad that you're here joining me today. We're going to be making a some Halloween decor, which I'm excited about. I can't believe Halloween is just a few days away. I am like, it's funny because you would think I'm ready, but I'm actually not ready. I still have to do like family costumes and all of that. So don't feel bad if you think that everyone else is ready for Halloween, because there's definitely a few days still to get ready. So today we're going to be making some DIY decor. We're going to be making an ombre ghost. And also let me know if I am talking a little fast. I tend to do that when I'm a little bit nervous. I am a teacher by nature, but I actually haven't been in a classroom setting in a while. So this is like starting off slow for me. Like we're kind of like riding a bicycle, right? You kind of start off slow after having not been on one in a while. So I'm going to give a few minutes for people to kind of jump in, log on, and get ready and settled. If you want to know a little bit more about me, again, I said I was a teacher. I taught elementary school for about 5 years. And then when I was pregnant with my daughter, I actually decided to become a stay-at-home mom for a little bit. And that has lasted a little bit longer than I had planned. But then again, it brought me here. So that kind of worked out on itself or on its own. And then I've just kind of been a crafter for most of my life. You know, creativity kind of runs in my family. My older sister was really, really good at art, and I was kind of following in her footsteps in that regard. And it kind of just led me into crafting on the daily basis. And then when I had my kids, they basically just continue to inspire me to make, you know, like everyday things extra special, especially holidays, because they're my absolute favorite. So if you guys are ready to get started, so am I. I'm hoping that we're ready to start.
We are good to go.
Okay, great. So again, thank you for logging on and joining me. We're going to be making some DIY decor for Halloween, a starch ghost. It's kind of like a spin on the cheesecloth ghost, where we're going to be adding an ombre element, because if you know me, I love color. I know many of you are very traditionalist when it comes to Halloween colors. I actually love adding in the pastels and the pinks, but today we are going to be going traditional with just a beautiful orange ombre ghost. So the first thing that we want to do is you want to measure out your fabric. So if you have your fabric, you're going to want to spread it out like that. And make sure that you have something to measure with. Measuring tape works beautifully. Over this way. And I decided to cover my table with a pink plastic cloth just so it's easier for you guys to see against the white of the cloth. So when I decided to make this ghost, I knew I wanted it to be relatively tall. So it's going to stand at about 14 inches, which is why I chose 31 inches for my cloth, because when I was measuring it, I realized that that was a great height and width for the fabric. So that way, when it's draped on our form a little bit later, it is going to give you the right amount of pooling so it can stand on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my fabric.
So Melody, what type of fabric is that you're using?
So this is from Michael's. It is just the normal cotton quilting cloth, and it's just like this relatively thin cotton fabric. And I believe it'll be listed in the product links as well. So let me cut this for you. Sorry if I'm a little bit off right here. My table is not as large. And then the key with cutting as well is that you want to have pretty sharp scissors to get through the cloth. And the line, the good thing about this is that line does not have to be exactly straight and exactly perfect, because when it's all said and done, you're not really going to be able to tell, like on the ghost. So don't worry if it's not exactly straight or if there's like some frayed edges. It's going to work out in the end. So I'm going to cut again. So it's going to be a 31 by 31 inch square. If you plan on making a 14-inch standing ghost, which is what I did, if you want to make a larger ghost, obviously you're going to be using more fabric. So you're going to want to measure it according to how tall your ghost is going to stand. Go. There we go. I have my cloth. I'm set to go. Let me move this guy over. I had to borrow my husband's tape measure, and he was like, "Oh, you better not lose that," because I steal all his tools for my DIYs. Okay, so the next step is we are going to fold our cloth. So you're going to fold it in half, just like that. And then making sure that the corners are pretty lined up. And then you're going to fold it in half again. Half again, and you should end up with a much smaller square, just like that. And if you notice, you're going to have two edges with the fold. So this edge has the fold, and then this also has a fold. And then you're going to have two edges that have like that raw hem. So one over here and then one over here. We're going to be painting the edges with the raw hems. Okay, so we're not going to be touching the ones with a fold, just the ones with the raw hem. So I'm going to set this to the side for a second because we are going to prepare our die. So let me put that over here. Now, to prepare our die, we're going to be using the, let me see, the Rit Sunshine Orange. A little close up. And this is actually the liquid dye from Rit. So I love this dye. I think it's like a lot easier to prepare. And the reason that I use this dye as well is because you're not going to be using the entire thing. So if you're using the powdered dye from Rit, you actually have to like mix it in with like X amount of gallons of water, and you actually don't need that for this specific DIY. So for this one, you're only going to be using about a tablespoon of dye. And then your squeeze bottle right here, you can also get at Michael's. We're going to be using this to put our dye in. And before I forget, I want to make sure that you guys are wearing gloves for this. Anytime you're working with any type of dye, you want to wear gloves unless you want to walk around with colored fingers for the remainder of the month. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my gloves before we start prepping our dye. So for the water for the dye, we actually want to use as hot a water as you can. I'm not talking about boiling just because this squeeze bottle is plastic and we don't want it to warp or melt. But the hottest setting of your tap water works beautifully. So I'm going to go ahead and unscrew my squirt bottle. And then I have some warm water here. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it in. And I'm using about 2-ish cups. Again, you're not going to be using all of it. So I'm just prepping you guys with a little bit extra. See how I'm only using like maybe less than 2. I would say like 1.5 cups in my squirt bottle here. And then we want to add our Rit dye. So again, I said I'm going to be adding a tablespoon. In my instructions, it does say 1 teaspoon. This is where you can kind of get creative with it. If you want your ghost to have a much darker color, a more saturated color at the bottom, then you're going to want to use more dye. You don't want to use too much though, because it's not necessary. A tablespoon is good for a pretty saturated look, and a teaspoon is a little bit on the lighter side. So you can use, you know, whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm going to eyeball about a tablespoon. And if you want to use a measuring spoon, you can do that as well. So that's about a tablespoon. And then as per the directions on here, it does say to use hot water to kind of help. It also says that you can add a little bit of dish soap, and that is supposed to help the dye go into the fabric a little bit more. So you have like the best outcome. So I'm going to just put in a little bit, like a 1/2 pump of just regular dish soap. I'm going to put my screw lid on. And then it's funny because I actually did this last night too. And I was like, oh, okay, you're going to shake it. So I started shaking it and the dye went like almost everywhere. So I'm not going to say shake it. I'm going to say to swirl it. So swirl it, make sure your finger is kind of on the top there so it doesn't go everywhere. Okay. And then let me know if you want me to pause or if you have any questions on the steps. I know I might be going too fast, hopefully not. Okay, so I have my die ready and we're gonna go ahead and start painting. So you're gonna get another container. So in my instructions, it said to use, to have two containers on hand. This one is a little bit smaller and it's again filled with very warm water. And then we have our paintbrush here, which is a stiff bristle brush. This works best just because it's a lot easier to push the dye into the cloth. So this one I really, really like. Also, you would notice that it's wide, which is really good for just getting it done quickly. Let me get this over there. Okay, so just a reminder again, we're only going to be painting the dye onto the raw edges, okay, so not the fold. And then to start, one of my tips, if you don't want it to have harsher lines, like if you want it to be a true ombre effect, you're going to want to put the dye directly onto the brush and then brush it that way. And then you're going to want to work quickly as well because the dye kind of starts setting in as soon as you put it on there. So if you don't work quickly, you're going to have like funky shapes and stuff on your fabric, which you don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and start squirting and brushing. So I'm starting just at the bottom, squirting and brushing. Again, you want to do this on a protected surface, just so you don't end up with an orange table. And then adding water as you go on. So what the water does is it kind of dilutes it, so that way you can get like nice ombre look on there. So as you can see, it's kind of, well, I don't know if you can actually see that, but I can see that there's a little bit of a harsh line here. So I just want to add more water and really work the dye into the fabric. Add more dye, and you're basically just going to go back and forth between water and dye. So when you want more color, you're going to add more dye. If you want it to kind of blend out a little bit, you're going to add more water. And then you always want to be brushing away from you, just so you are not getting dye on your clothes. You probably already noticed that I'm also wearing an apron, just so that does not happen. So I'm brushing and just switching back and forth between dye and water. Just like so. And I actually thought about this last night, but wouldn't it be so cool if you did this in multiple colors? I might want to start like a whole ombre ghost, rainbow ombre ghost trend, which would be so fun. I know rainbow Halloween is kind of trending right now. And of course, I'm a huge fan. Okay. So we're going to continue blending. And I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you see this line right here. I want to blend that even more. So again, I'm going to go in with dye on my brush, add more dye to that area, and just really work it into that fabric. And since it's multiple layers, it's okay that it's that you're using so much liquid, just because you want it to seep all the way through and not just the top 2 layers.
So if you didn't use the brush and you just dipped the bottom of the edge of the cloth, would you still be able to get the ombre look?
So I have not tried that personally. I mean, you could, but I like the brush because you can control where you want the color to stop. So you have the most control when you're using the brush. And because if you dip it directly, you don't know where that dye is going to stop soaking up. It's going to depend on your fabric. So that's why I am using a brush. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. We have another question. How long does this take to dry?
So this actually takes overnight. So I started this project the first time just basically around the same time, and it was dry in the morning. And this is gonna depend also on where you live. Because when I used to live in the desert, it honestly, things dried in like 20 minutes. But if you live in different climates, it's gonna really depend on where you live. But 24 hours is pretty good amount of time for it to dry. Okay, so I'm going to turn it now and start on the next raw edge right here. And we're going to basically do the same thing. So I'll start with dye at the bottom. And just apply it pretty liberally to the bottom, working quickly and adding water. As you notice, I didn't go all the way up. We're going to try to leave kind of this middle section untouched, just so it's a true ombre and it goes from white or from orange to white. Go. And traditionally, when you're dyeing things, it tells you that you should wash it beforehand. We did not wash this cloth beforehand, so the fabric, it's going to take a lot more, getting wet to actually really saturate it. So I noticed that this edge isn't as dark as I want, so I'm just going to go back and add more dye. So speaking of where everyone is from, where is everyone from? We are, I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but I'm actually based out of Southern California, and I live with, well, I have my family here, obviously, my husband, my daughter Izzy, which some of you are used to seeing on Instagram, because she's honestly just a ham and loves taking pictures. I swear I don't train her to do some of the poses that she does. She just does it on her own. So it's so funny when I'm like, hey, you want to take a picture? She's like, yes. But yeah, so I'm from Southern California, which means my drying time is, relatively 24 hours, not too dry over here in the Inland Empire.
We have people joining from Nashville and Southern California, Oregon, Texas, another Oregon.
Everywhere. That's awesome. My husband is in the military, and we moved around quite a bit in the past couple years. I have lived in Georgia. I've lived in Hawaii. We lived in Hawaii for a couple of years, which I really loved. I missed it every single day. And then, of course, California is where we are both originally from. So welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining me, taking time out of your day. Okay, so we have our little cloth here all done for the most part. Again, I left this corner kind of white, and then the rest of it I dyed. So this is the part where we're just going to leave it and set it off to the side, and we're going to go ahead and make our base for our ghost. So let me clean up some of this. If you have any questions, let me know.
There is another question. What other type of cloth do you use?
I've only done this with the cotton quilting cloth. I think cotton would be the best. It is quite lightweight, which is what you want, just because you're going to be draping it on styrofoam, and styrofoam isn't super heavy. So I would suggest cotton. I haven't tried it with anything else. If you do, let me know how it works out for you. You can always DM me on my Instagram, which is Melody in the Making. So I'm going to set this to the side. And let me just mention that when I do go and dry it, I don't really necessarily unfold it, but you can if you want to. And then if you're seeing that you're not getting the saturation you want on the other side, you can also easily flip it over and do the back side. Actually, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side. And then clean up a bit. Whenever I'm crafting, I always have a roll of paper towels with me, regardless of whether I'm painting or using clay or whatever, just because I know crafting gets so messy. Okay. And there's that. And then now we're going to go ahead and work on our base for the ghost. So I'm just going to keep my gloves on for the entire time, just because I'm going to be kind of switching back and forth between touching the dyed project. So with this, you're going to need your cutting board ready, and then we're going to be using Styrofoam balls. So this is the FloraCraft Styrofoam Balls from Michael's, and you can find this, I think, in like the floral section. So we're going to be using 3 different sizes. I believe this is the 5-inch, it's like 5.8 or something, the 3-inch, and then there are the smaller ones that come in a pack of 12. It's the 1.4-inch. We're only going to be using 2 of those. So you can save the rest for additional crafting. Make sure you have a cutting board, and then I use my serrated kitchen knife. I found works best, just because a crafting knife is too short to get all the way through like you want a nice even cut. We're going to be cutting about no more than 1 inch off of our largest styrofoam ball, because we also don't want to cut off any, like, too much of the height of your project. So we're going to cut off about 1 inch. That way it can stand on its own and not roll away. I have to be on my tiptoes because I'm quite short. Only 5'2". This part, you kind of want to go slowly, just because you don't want the styrofoam to break. You're going to have to put some elbow grease in there. It is a little tricky to cut off. Okay. Right. So as you can see, I cut off just about 1 inch off my styrofoam for my base. So now my ghost can stand and not roll away. The next step is we're going to take our wooden dowels. So the instructions say that you need 2 wooden dowels. The first one, you're going to leave the length that it came in. And then the second one, you're actually going to cut in half. So this one I already pre-cut in half, but I basically just use some really sharp scissors to just cut it and then break it in half. Pretty easy. So we're going to take the longer stick, and then you want to have your measuring tool handy and set it, or have it set to like 14 inches is what we wanted. And we're going to insert it right through the top middle. So we're going to insert just little by little, because you can always push it in a little bit more versus trying to pull it out and have it stand where you want. So it's going to go right. You try to go as straight as you can. And then I'm going to kind of be measuring. It's going to go in maybe another inch more. Okay. So again, it doesn't have to be exact, but you want it to be right around 14 inches for the amount of fabric that we have. And then this second ball is going to be our head of the ghost, and we're going to put that right on top. So sorry, this is a little bit close to my camera, but you're going to put that directly on top. There we go. And then again, your measuring tool, just to keep an eye on the height. So I'm going to push it down a little bit more. You don't want it to come out through the top, so try to keep an eye on how much you're pushing it in. It's a little bit tall, so I'm going to push it in a little bit more down the base. Getting there. Okay. more. And another reason you want it to stick around 14 inches is because you do want fabric pooling around it when we go ahead and drape our ghost. That way, when you remove this form afterwards, it can stand up on its own without any support, and it just turns out to be a pretty cool effect. So, okay, so about 14 inches. You guys still with me? Let me know if you have questions. Okay, so it's looking like a little discombobulated snowman, which is what we want. And then we're going to go ahead and create what's going to be the arms of our ghost. So for this, we're not going to stick it in directly because you don't want the fabric to drape on the actual sticks so much, because it just causes like a really harsh line, and that's not what you want. So you're going to actually angle them. Let's see if I can turn it this way. You're going to angle them upwards. So it's kind of up to you where you want them to go. I usually kind of eyeball it and then go ahead and stick them in. And as you can see, it's not perfect. They're not like exactly the same, but I mean, what ghost is perfectly symmetrical, right? Okay, so I'm going to stick them in that way, kind of eyeballing to be a little bit even, and then they are angled upwards. Let me know if you guys want me to kind of stay in this. Maybe I'll do it like that, so that way you guys can see it. And then our two little balls are going to be the ghost hands, so we're just going to pop that onto the ends. So again, make sure it doesn't go all the way through. You want to make sure it's secure so that way it doesn't fall off. And then this is our finished ghost form. Okay, let me know if we have any questions. Okay, so our next step is the actual putting it in the starch. So through some movie magic, I'll show you guys the dried cloth piece, what it's going to look like. And then I'm going to put this little guy to the side. Okay, so this is the piece that I actually did last night. And I don't know if you can do a little overhead. Okay, so this is nice and dried. Again, it took like 24 hours. It was done by the time I woke up. It was like maybe a tiny bit damp. But we're going to be draping this over our ghost form after we starch it. So for starch, I actually have my liquid starch right here. And you can use liquid starch that you picked up over, at the grocery store. You can also, and I did not know this before this project, but you can also make your own liquid starch for crafts. So if you combine about 2 cups, 2.5 cups of water, like just regular tap water, and about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of starch, and make sure like there's no clumps. You boil it for about a minute, and then you set that off and let it cool. You can actually make your own liquid starch. So that's what I did last night. And so my liquid starch is right here. The more cornstarch that you add to it, the stiffer your project is going to be. So I added a good like heaping 2 tablespoons just so my ghost can be nice and stiff. You're going to grab your container next, so your second container, and you can actually pour in your starch. I kind of start with half a jar. That's good. And you're going to unfold your fabric all the way. You're basically just going to soak it in. So I'm going to put it in here just like that. Soak it in.
And going back just a bit, we had a question. What did you lay the fabric on something or hang it to dry?
Yeah, so typically I would cover my piece with, I just cut up like a trash bag. You can use a tablecloth, which is what I'm using right now, a plastic tablecloth, and you can just set that aside to dry, wherever you have some space. So trash bag works really well. If you take a trash bag, cut one of the seams and just lay it out. You can dry it that way. I haven't done a hang dry, but you can also do it that way. Just make sure that you have something under to protect just in case it drips, which it really shouldn't because you didn't use a ton of water, but of course, just in case. And yeah, those are basically the two ways that you can dry it. Okay, so I'm adding more starch and I'm basically making sure that this is like saturated in starch. You don't want there to be any dry spots. See how there's like a dry spot right there? You want to make sure that starch is all rubbed in, all saturated. See more dry spots. So I want to make sure that is saturated. Again, using gloves to protect your hands. And some of the dye is going to come out while you do this. So if you kind of notice your starch kind of turning orange, that's okay. Some of it will come out, but it's not going to really affect the overall look. So you're basically just going to use your hands to work the starch into the fabric. And I'm just kind of spreading it out, checking to see if there's any like dry areas that I need to work that starch in. I actually had Izzy help me with this part. Of course, she was wearing gloves, but she loved it. She was like all in there with her hands. She loves to craft. How many of you guys craft with your kids? Let me know. Sometimes it's hard, not gonna lie, just because you know you want something to turn out a certain way and you're like, let me just do it. But I try to give her some tasks that I know she can do by herself. So checking my fabric to see that.
So Mimi's daughter, Sophia, is actually watching with her today.
Oh, perfect. Hi, Mimi and Sophia. So I've checked my fabric over, made sure that all of that starch has gotten it wet. It's all saturated. Perfect. And you're actually going to be squeezing a little bit out. So just the excess, not necessarily super, super tight. So you don't want to wring it out, but you just want to lightly kind of squeeze it out so it's not dripping. So you see that some of it is kind of coming out. That's okay. Okay. So this is the part where I have to kind of do a little bit of movie magic for you guys. And I'm going to be setting this aside. If you were doing this with me at home, you're basically going to unfold this and then you're going to set it again on the same surface or plastic covered surface that you set it up to dry before. And you're going to let it dry again overnight. So, oh, I'm sorry. You're actually going to be draping after this. Okay, try that again. Take two. Let me squeeze and I'll show you guys how we drape it. Okay, so squeeze, not too hard because you want some of that starch to stay in there. And I'm going to be draping it on my ghost. So let me get my hands a little bit less messy. And then we're going to be draping it. So that. And then let me get my little ghost form. So this is ready to go. And we're basically just going to drape how it looks. You want the fabric to kind of pool at the bottom again. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. I just want to make sure you guys get this. You want the fabric to pool. You're going to find the center of your fabric. Push this up a little bit. And that is where it's going to go on your ghost. So that's about the center. There, and I'm going to put that over the top of my ghost. Again. So you're going to drape it over the hands as well. And you're basically just going to maneuver the fabric so that it pools. So you want it to, I don't know if you can do an overhead of the back. Let me see. So do you see how this is pooled right here? You want that because it's going to give stability to your ghost. You want that both in the back and the front. You want to make sure it's pretty balanced as well. And draping it as you go. And this is where you can kind of have fun with it too. If you didn't want the arm sticking out, you can kind of give it, you know, one hand up, maybe one hand down, or maybe like giving a high five. Let's see. So again, the reason why we did the angled arms is because you don't want it to be like that harsh line right here. So I'm just draping it just a little bit. And then you want to get rid of any folds in the fabric down below. And then just working that into a base to kind of help you have that stand. In my original project, I actually had it on a platform. So I took a crate that I got from Michael's, and I was draping the fabric over the crate. When I do tablescapes, I like to have different heights, just because I think it brings, you know, some interest to your tablescape. And so when I did this originally, it was on a crate, and I had that covered in foil to protect the crate, first of all. But I wanted it to have like that different shape. So the drapes were going over the side of the crate. But for this one, I am going just flat on a table. So it's a little tricky because I can't maneuver over to the front because I'm showing you guys. So I'm hoping that is nice and draped over there. Again, you want to get rid of any of like folds in fabric just to give it a more, I guess, realistic shape. Okay, and I'm pushing the fabric closer to the styrofoam just so it stands nice and tall and it doesn't lean over to one side or the other when it's all dry. Sure.
We have a question for you to go back over your recipe for the starch again, please.
Oh, sure. So basically to make a homemade starch, and you can use this, oh, see, sorry, little ghost arm popped off. You can use this with all kinds of crafts, including, you know, paper mache. But basically you take 2 cups of water, and then you take about I used about 2 tablespoons of regular kitchen cornstarch. And then you're going to, what kind of helped me was I actually made a slurry. So I poured about 1 3/4 cups of water into the pan first, and then I took the remaining 1/4 cup, mixed it with my cornstarch to make a little bit of a slurry is what they call it. And then I mixed it into the rest of the water, and I let that boil off for about a minute. Not crazy boil, kind of like a slow rolling boil. And then you let that cool off overnight and you have starch. Some liquid starch. It actually even works on, you probably even use it on your laundry, to be honest. Okay, so I have my little ghosty over here, all nice and draped. I don't know if you can catch that in the beginning. And we're just basically gonna let this dry. For this part, it took, again, roughly 24 hours, maybe a little bit more, like 1.5 days to dry. I'm gonna tiptoe so you guys can see my face. But yeah, so this takes maybe 1.5 days to dry. So if you do this project, you wanna give yourself a lot of time in between because there are drying elements to it. Between the different steps. And then when this is all dry, the last step is that you're going to be adding the eyes. So I actually have one that is dry already. So I'll be adding the eyes for you. If just give me a second, I'm going to be moving this friend over here. Sorry, go see. Okay, so again, let me just clean this up. This is so much fun. I hope you guys are having a good time. If you're just watching, thank you for jumping on. Again, I'm Melody from Melody in the Making on Instagram. Come find me, come say hi. I love connecting with you guys. It's just so fun. I found like some of my best friends through this crafting community online, and it's just kind of crazy how much has like changed in the past year for me, just because of all the people I've met and people I've been inspired by. So here is the ghost, all nice and dry. As you noticed, this one is definitely a lot lighter because I use a lot less dye. You can customize it however you want. You can do a lot more orange. You can do a little bit of orange. It's kind of basically up to you. I love having kind of that creative freedom, just taking it where you want it to go. So we're going to be adding the eyes, and you want to add the eyes on before you take out the form, just so that it stays in its form. So let me get you're going to get some craft felt, and this is just regular black craft felt from Michaels. And you're basically just going to cut out the eyes. So super simple. I cut 2 ovals for my eyes, but if you're doing this, you can do basically whatever you want. You can give your ghost, you know, eyelashes. You can give them a mouth. You can give them a nose if you want. So you can kind of go anywhere. I just freehanded that, by the way. So just cutting my eyes out. And this is actually one of probably my favorite projects that I've done this Halloween, just because I love that feeling of like having an idea, watching it come together. And then sometimes, you know, ideas don't come together. I had a treat board recently that was apparently pretty popular, but it's funny because when I was making it, I had these witch fingers that did not work out. And I sent a picture to my friend, and we just had this huge laugh about it because they looked terrible, like not appetizing at all. But that's, you know, the thing with arts and crafts and DIY, you know, some things work out, sometimes they don't, and you just really never know unless you try. Okay, so I have my eyes all right there. I don't know if you can get like a little front view. And then I'm just going to grab my glue gun, and we're just going to go ahead and glue that on. Pretty simple. Again, if you do this project, make sure you tag me at Melody in the Making. I would absolutely love to see how yours comes out. I love seeing when people do their own take on things as well. That's always fun to see. And then here's my little ghosty. There you go. So cute. Okay, so that basically is the project, you guys. I'm going to be taking out the form. So to do that, you basically just carefully want to shake them off the form. Lifting it. There's our little ghost form. And then he basically can stand up on his own. So it's funny because like what kind of drew me to this is because I've always wanted to make that cheesecloth version, but I never did it. And then finally I was like, I'm going to do it, but I want to do it with a twist. So that's when, you know, the cotton cloth came in, the ombre dye came in, and it just became kind of just like this fun DIY. All right, so here's our ghost. Another thing that I thought you could do with it as well is if you stick a glow stick on the underside of it, that would give such a cool effect. I actually did it a little while ago, and I was like, oh my God, that brings it to like a whole other level. So you can make like a whole bunch of these, stick the glow sticks in. They wouldn't do that well outside just because they're so lightweight, but like on a tablescape, it would be awesome. Maybe in a front entryway, this would be so fun. And then you can make, you know, a whole family of ghosts. Do you have any questions? I hope I didn't go too fast.
No, that looks really good. And you're getting a lot of great compliments in the chat. So cute, obsessed. It looks so good, so fun. So it looks great.
Thank you guys so much. Okay, so that is basically it. Again, you can find me on my socials, Melody in the Making. I actually have my blog launching in a few days. There's not a ton on there yet, but I have a ton of fun things planned for the holidays, including a few more projects with Michaels that I'm like crazy excited about, and I've been working on for the past couple of weeks. So make sure you find me, Melody in the Making, on Instagram, as well as melodyinthemakingblog.com, and that's going to be my blog. But that's basically it. I hope you come say hi. Come tag me if you try this little ghost decor. And I really appreciate you guys coming to craft with me. It's been so fun, and I really hope that this has inspired you to go out and, you know, do your own decor DIYs.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melody, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you so much.